Clubhouse. 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 Thank you. Clubhouse. Clubhouse. Thank you. Clubhouse. 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 Clubhouse.
Thank you.
Bipolar, 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 Andrew's got bipolar. What is bipolar disorder? Just was told that I might have it, and lithium seems to be working a treat. Also, the death of a close friend helped. God, what possesses me to say such a thing casually? Yeah, that's actually a good question. So I was ruled by my emotions all my life, and then when I went to Europe, I sort of had this moment of clarity where I let the light in. Let's just say, cringy in it. But I realized that I was ruled by my emotions. That I was. I am ruled by my emotions. I was watching Inside Out 2 yesterday, and ooh, boy howdy how I cried. It basically explains what happens to adults in their head when they grow up with their emotions, and the cause of a lot of mental health issues comes from an inability to control your emotions. I really did find watching that movie, quite profound. There, in the movie Inside Out, their characterization of anxiety was on point. By the way, the emotions that seem to rule you, according to this, animated Pixar movie for about a 13-year-old girl, according to the post-pubescent, according to that movie, the post-pubescent emotions that kind of rule you as an adult, I suppose, are anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui. And ennui in the movie, the portrayal of ennui, I found quite illuminating. I didn't realize that there was an emotion that basically characterizes damn near every adult in the Toke family and the Pshadi Association, and in Pshadi, I should say, rather. It's this pretend aloofness that's really just an emotion, right? So you don't want to show that you're embarrassed to your friends, so you just pretend that you don't care. That's actually an emotion, and that's actually quite destructive as well. And that's what I found out, And what I realized is that I don't have that. For whatever reason, that aloofness sort of nature, I just don't have. I never really cared about being perceived as not caring or aloof. The primary emotion that was driving me was anxiety. Envy, definitely envy. Growing up, I was absolutely envious of my Uncle Maroon's family, right? Mother, father, well put together, and I was jealous of my cousin Saeed and Majid all of my life, right? Because they had a dad. And I didn't, right? My father was in jail for a big chunk of my life. And when he wasn't in jail, he was away. So I was envious of nuclear families, believe it or not. Embarrassment was also a big one, but I never liked being embarrassed. That's why alcohol was so effective for me. And I think that's why I became an alcoholic, to sort of suppress my embarrassment, my emotions. my wild emotions, let's just say, that I couldn't control, yeah, was temporarily eased with alcohol. But now I understand that alcohol is absolutely, technically, a poison, and it's certainly not a medicine, right? So I don't care that people drink or do drugs, recreationally. I really care when they begin to use those substances as a form of medication, because I think at that point they need to sort of reevaluate their relationship with it. Yeah, but I needed alcohol to help me with my emotions. Um, yeah. Oh, and nostalgia. That's also an emotion that was brought up. But the joke about nostalgia was that it kept coming into the scene, and the emotions kept, saying, "Go away, nostalgia. It's not time yet. She's too young to be nostalgic." Right? And I definitely have that as well. That's what inspired the Toke Association, the Study Association podcast. It was my nostalgia for what I perceived to be better times. But that's just a feeling and a perception based on that memory being at a time when I wasn't so stressed and, ruled by my emotions, let's just say. That's really what nostalgia is. Sort of like harkening back to a time where things were easier and less stressful. The beauty of life is that, you can still have your nostalgia. You could still not relive it, but you can. So, you can feel carefree, right? And like you did as a kid, as an adult, at times. Of course you can. There's nothing wrong with a 50 or 60-year-old feeling giddy and elated, like they did as a 15-year-old, right? What's wrong with that? That's fudging lovely, I love it when my Uncle Maroon forgets his stupid position in the family and as a silly patriarch, and lets go of that ennui attitude, right? And then just revels, gets a little bit giddy, gets a little bit silly, gets a little bit happy, drinks a little bit too much, smokes some cannabis and just enjoys himself with Rida, right? With David Romanos, right? With Peter Toke, right? And his brother Johnny and his wife Anastasia, right? There's no problem, with feeling elated and feeling youthful as an adult, right? And harkening back to that nostalgic time. The reason why my uncle Maroon loves to go to Mudgee is because it reminds him of that innocent time in his youth in Bazikta, right? There's nothing wrong with any of that. For me, his attitude becomes destructive when he needs to be compassionate, but he, has that ennui attitude. No, it's all cool. Yeah, just be this, just be that. When I just needed a hug, for fuck's sakes. And he saves himself the emotion of embarrassment, right? By, again, ennui, pretending he doesn't care about me. It's all cool. It's all great. My kids will take care of it. This is a non-problem. It's all cool. I'm cool. My kids are cool. It's really appalling, when you think about the facts of the matter and on the ground, yeah, that's an emotion that is destructive in my opinion. And he passed that down to his son Maroon, his son Majid, right? To a pathological extent, right? So all of Majid's persona is ennui, right? And that's sort of the inside joke with a person like him. Is he being serious? We don't know, because he never reveals himself, because he's so insecure, right? And I'm not saying that to have a go at him, right? At this point, I think that just saying his name Majid is diffused. Like, who knows what Majid I'm talking about? It's the person who has the most video plays on YouTube. It's his video, yeah, with that cocaine and, thingy thumbnail. But I understand that, I'm being a bit of a jerk and mean by, constantly talking about someone who I keep saying is insecure, but he needs to sort of work on his confidence, right? That's why I took him to Europe, so he can, work on his confidence and interpersonal skills, meet people, and he chose to hate me and vilify me, right? Because I was mean to his father and his father was being mean to him, and he was struggling to, contain, to project that ennui attitude, when we were in Levi in Finland. Yeah, like we flew business class to Finland, and we were in the Arctic Circle, and he couldn't, and we were tens of thousands of miles away from his father and my father, but he still had to maintain that sort of attitude. I don't know why. It was so odd. He wouldn't relax. He kept pretending that everything is cool and okay. I asked him if he wanted to go for a walk. No. No, why would I want to go for a walk? Walks are dumb. I don't have the right shoes for him. Okay, so you're just going to stay in the cabin? Yeah. We're in the Arctic Circle and you want to stay inside the cabin. Okay. I'm going to walk around and I'm going to drive to Norway, and Sweden. Why do you want to do that? Because I think it's nice and pleasant. All right. Just like, why do you want to drive? What are you doing? Let's go. It was so odd. He wouldn't reveal himself. He wouldn't relax. And the one thing that I told him that he needs to be when we're away is relaxed, not pretend to look relaxed while you're obviously stressed, right? He couldn't break that ennui attitude, and he wasted a trip to Europe. And he would have spent, like, he rented, he bought the car, and he got so $10,000 just for the car because he made a poor financial decision. I rented a car, I paid $2,000 for it already. He canceled that rental agreement and got a new car for I don't know why. I don't know why. And I drove it, and because he didn't get unlimited kilometers, and mind you, my original booking was for unlimited kilometers, he ended up spending, being charged on his card like an extra $4,000. It wasn't an okay trip, We needed to communicate. We needed to, get together, but there wasn't that at all. We went to a restaurant in Levi in the Arctic Circle, where they specialize in lobsters and crabs, that they get from the oh gosh, what's that? It's the sea between Poland and Finland. I can't think of it. The Baltic Sea. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's crustaceans from the Baltic Sea. Beautiful, delicious restaurant, and that's their specialty. He was annoyed that the waiter kept talking to him. Why are you in Finland? My God, stay home. And that's what I realized. I think I was trying to force a square peg, into a round hole, or vice versa. No, a square peg in a round hole. Yeah, it just didn't work, because he couldn't break through that ennui. He couldn't sort of break through his embarrassment, and I was just there to have a cathartic experience in Europe, to really sort of think about myself and what I really wanted out of life, And what I discovered in Europe is that I was extremely unhappy with the decisions I was making. I was extremely unhappy, rather, very specific, okay, at what was making me extremely unhappy, right? Anxiety, mental breakdown. That was just working with my family. That was me working with my family. Not my family as such, right? This is just about my feelings. I felt that they didn't care, that they didn't love me, that they weren't affirming or encouraging me at all, in the least, when that's all I wanted desperately. I was in Europe, and I still couldn't get away from that really toxic attitude and behavior, right? All I wanted was to relax and to be away from the stupid delusions of Bat Asad, this ennui stupidity. I just wanted to have a good time, you know. I wasn't happy with Majid in Europe, in Finland. So I decided to leave Finland early and go to Amsterdam and sort of set up a trip there, because I was not going to, use this time to be around people that were making me miserable, right? I respect myself far too much to do that. So I went to Amsterdam and had an amazing time in Amsterdam on my own. My God, the cannabis bike rides, using a vaporizer was just a dream, because all of Holland is flat, and my windmill Airbnb, the most amazing, beautiful 3-story windmill Airbnb, oh God, located on like a river, birds, swans every morning, fresh strawberries. It was just divine, right? Paradise in a way. It's lovely. I loved it. It was making me happy, right? It was allowing me to feel relaxed and joyous, right? I got that room, the Airbnb for 3 nights, and my sister and Majid came, and they were supposed to stay with me, and they were disgusted and appalled at the Windmill Hotel. I'll put videos of the Windmill Airbnb, and photos. I'll link to those posts on my Facebook and Instagram, because that was so hurtful. It was just, I'm like, are you fudging kidding me? I paid your father's mortgage for like 10 months. I arranged this business class trip for you. I paid you, paid Majid. Majid received over $120,000 in 3 months. No, no, no. Oh, yeah, yeah, yes, 3 months. Three, maximum 4 months. And he came to Europe broke, depressed, and unhappy, just intent on making my life miserable. I have no idea what was up his bottom, but it was just too much. It was too much. And what I'm realizing in hindsight was that what was happening in Europe with me and Majid was an indicator of what was going to happen when I come back to Sydney. Basically, it wasn't just going to be Majid and his poor attitude. It was going to be all about Assad and their poor attitude. And I was breaking. I was already on the breaking point in Europe. So coming back and realizing that now I have to deal with Majid's poor attitude, but his brother, his uncles, and everyone in my family, yeah, it incited a mental breakdown, where I had to basically reset. Let's just say, reset and reconfigure my relationship with my uncle, because what had happened in that year and how it concluded in Europe was just too much for me to bear. Let's call it too much good news at once, right? But for me, just so you understand, all I needed was just some relief, a hug, some sort of affirmation. Andrew, you're good. Andrew, we appreciate what you did for us. Thank you. Just anything other than fuck you, you fucking piece of weirdo shit. What's wrong with you? Why are you so weird? Like, I am so fucking sick and tired of people's fucking opinions of me, man. Just please keep them to yourself. My God. Nah, actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not it. It's not opinions. It's just attitudes when people are around me. I'm really just speaking about my uncles and my first cousins, Saeed, Majid, my uncle Maroon, my father, Abdirada, Danny. These people that wouldn't give me a break from all their beautiful misery. they just wanted me to join them in their miserable sort of life. I want to make you money, and I want to, be a millionaire, and I want to enjoy business class trips overseas, and I want to have a good time with my cousin. Because I knew that when I was going to come back to Sydney, it was going to be extraordinarily hard, and we had to navigate around the investments that I made. But I quickly found out that no one really cared about anything, really. They just were angry at me, and they were always angry forever. And I was not interested in perpetuating that sort of toxic attitude at all. I had enough. I felt it for a year. That was enough. They've lived that for their entire life. Good on them. My God, look what it's won them. Nothing, right? It's the ennui projection. They're pretending like everything is okay. But there's a lot wrong, and a lot of people are struggling and suffering, and it's stressful. So remember, Majid came to Europe stressed. I came to Europe stressed. My sister came to Europe stressed, right? I tried to de-stress. My sister tried to de-stress, and I think she did, right? But she was attached to Majid, and Majid's his attitude was just bringing everyone down, and he refused to bring himself out of it. And that's why he stole money from me, because he was angry at me because of what happened in Europe, because I wasn't affirming him. But he needs to appreciate that he wasn't giving me anything. And it is a feedback loop, right? So my attitude is pissing him off, and then his attitude is pissing me off. And okay, we're not going to resolve it. So he's going to take that poor attitude to Sydney and then use it against me to harm me, because his feelings are hurt, because he doesn't know how to control his emotions or how to process his feelings, right? He's broke, and he came to Sydney broke, and he needed money because he's bad with money. And so he did what his uncle and father do. He stole it. Okay. You proud of yourself? Why couldn't you just be nice? Not a hug? Not some sort of affirmation? Nothing? Just Andrew wasn't nice to me and didn't do what I feel was correct. So what? It's really odd. I had a beautiful, amazing experience in Europe. I love traveling, and what I found out on that trip is that that's really where my heart's at. Traveling, meeting people, um, thinking about other cultures, thinking about how we're all different but we're all the same, and what it is about our culture that's so good and awesome and unique, and what we can learn about other cultures. When I was in southern Germany, I was in a town, I forgot what it's called, but I think it's Weissmachen or Weiss. It starts with Weiss. At southern Germany, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful town. Like, I think a 1 hour drive from Austria, and Austria is so easy to drive through and so beautiful and magnificent. Road trip through Austria, 100%, get it done. That's what I did, right? I enjoyed my time in Europe. I had the time of my life. Ask Majid what he did. Ennui, nothing, right? Just, it's such a shame. And by the way, I'm not saying that to have a go at him, to say that he's a bad person, he's irredeemable. What I'm essentially saying is that he couldn't get past his mental health issues, which ruined his trip to Europe, which basically led him to make an extremely bad decision that will affect him for the rest of his life. I had traveled to Europe several times, and I knew how to get the best out of it. And I made the decision when I left them in Finland that enough. I can't do this anymore with my family. This is just abusive at this point. It's disgusting. Like, I can't keep being around these toxic sort of people with these poor attitude that can't see that their attitudes are poor, that just think that it's me that's the problem and refuse to acknowledge that they're the problem. I understand that Majid was stressed out because I had a massive, massive argument where I physically, I put my father in a headlock, right? I tried to kill my father, right? That was very traumatizing for Majid to hear, to see, right? And he didn't know how to contextualize that. And I tried to explain to him that's just decades of frustration that finally came out. But I think he thought it was the devil or some weird thing like that. I have no idea. But no, it was just a frustration from being abused by my father all my life, for him neglecting me and for him abandoning me and my mother and my brother. I was angry. He asked me, he made it so I came to my grandfather's house so he can confront me, but I was the one that wanted to confront him. And that turned into a very, very, very uncomfortable situation for me and for everyone. And we're still recovering from that because we haven't properly processed why what happened in January between me and my father and my Uncle Maroon and my Auntie Rada and her husband Halim. They just left it there like, okay, this happened. When's Andrew going to get over it? And the answer is never. I'm never going to get over the fact that my father, is doing bad things. So it's not, how do I put this? It's so odd that people think it's about forgiveness. I've forgiven my father, all right? But we still have work to do. I'm still living in the world, right? I'm still attached to him. And there's things that I believe he's doing incorrectly and his family's doing incorrectly that I don't agree with. And so I'm making this podcast to sort of lay out what I think they're doing incorrectly. And I've forgiven my father, sure, but I'm upset at him and still angry, let's say, just a little bit, not a lot, right? Not like before, right? Because I've processed those emotions and I don't feel that angry anymore. But I'm upset that he's in Qatar and not here. He was in Qatar through Tony's death, through my brother being released and going back into jail, through my mental breakdown, through all the stress that my sister had to go through, just sitting comfortably in Qatar, ennui, pretending that everything's okay. Appalling behavior. So it's not about forgiveness. I am upset that he's still in Qatar. I'm upset that my Uncle Maroon is in Mudgee while his son cannot afford to pay the home loan that he signed off on. That he's in Mudgee and the Villiers Street loan is 4 months behind. No one knows what to do. They're all scrambling. And their solution is, my Uncle Maroon's solution to that real world problem that has to do with finance and mental health is to put a cheap crucifix at the front wall and to drive to Mudgee. Okay, how's that helping anything, ennui? I loved Europe. In Germany, I had this amazing sort of experience. And what I learned in this small town was that it's a little bit like Pshadi, beautiful mountainous sort of town, and there were crucifixes lined all around it, right? Just like the seven crosses in Pshadi. And then I realized it's the Christian ethic. That's universal, right? You find that everywhere. Wherever there's sort of like a cross or a church, we're comfortable, right? And you'd be surprised at how religious the religious elements in Germany, in Italy, in France, just everywhere, they're steeped in it. Perhaps people get this impression that they're less religious, which I think is true. But remember, the manifestations of the religion is still there. The crucifixes, the churches, the cemeteries, all that sort of stuff, and it's all over the shop. It's actually quite lovely. If that's, something that kind of interests you, if you were to go overseas in Europe, yeah, do road trips. And then every small town that you stop at, have your Airbnb, um, has a church as a center of its town, and it's beautiful and it's lovely. I love the infrastructure of small, sort of like Central European, continental European towns. How yeah, the whole town basically like circles, or sprouts out of the church kind of thing, just like in Shadi. It's lovely, and I got that lovely sort of experience there because that's something that I was looking to attain, because I felt like the spiritual aspect of my life was wanting. Yeah, and it was awesome. And Majid had a great religious experience. He went to Cologne Cathedral, right? And let him tell you how beautiful and amazing Cologne Cathedral is. And I discovered Cologne Cathedral accidentally on a road trip with me and my wife. We just, wanted to stop in a city, somewhere, just in a random city. We were in Amsterdam, I think. And we just said, we'll just stop in Cologne. Sounds nice. And we realized that one of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world were located in Cologne. Was located in Cologne. Yeah, Cologne Cathedral. Beautiful, beautiful Gothic architecture. Amazing. Ask Majid. Um, yeah. When I was in that small German town, I just felt, oh, this is like a nice town with people that are nice, just like Shadi. Yeah. It just like Greenacre. You know, the churches were different to Saint Charbel's parish, but th- they still had that same essence, right? Mind you, a lot nicer, I have to say. I think I was spoiled. I think Europe, they're spoiled with their churches. They're just so beautiful and ornamental, you know? And then when I saw St. Charbel's Parish in Punchbowl, it just looked like a building compared to those lovely churches. And I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way, because that's what a church, I mean, is. It's a building. It's a beautiful, beautiful building, St. Charbel's Parish. By the way, I'm not denigrating it by any means. Um, but yeah, the really overall point is how lovely the churches were in Europe, And to me, perhaps that's like an aspirational thing, Ooh, I wonder if we can make a church as pretty as, you know, um, uh, normal local churches in Europe, beautiful and ornamental. I like that. Um, it was just a thought. Um, yeah. Um, I found that it was easy to breathe strangely in northern Italy, at the base of the Alps, because the air just feels so much fresher. Yeah, you know, um, I sort of thought a lot about so many family members that are stressed out and that are burnt out that could really, really, really benefit from just taking in the air um, around Central Europe. So the Alps, Austria, you know, um, yeah, beautiful. Lake Como in northern Italy, beautiful. My uncle Maroon would love Lake Como because yeah, all the water, the melted snow from the Alps, goes to the lake, or the lake is fed from water from the Alps or snow from the Alps, um, and the creeks and the valleys are just so beautiful, like Pshadadi, right? I think there's a lesson there to go to Europe and realize that it's just like home, you know, and you get this sense that really the whole world is your home, and you stop feeling super, super local. You stop, yeah, or small or narrow, you sort of expand your mind. Um, yeah, so please, let go of your embarrassment and your ennui and have that beautiful, cathartic, joyous experience in Europe. Yeah, it's not that hard, it's not that expensive. If you're batao, you've got a house to stay in France, you know? And don't worry, I'll start building more houses. Um, I really do want to. I really want to build Airbnbs, right? And then kind of advertise that I'm the guy in the family to go to if you want a place to stay in Europe. You know, go see Andrew. He'll tell you where to go. He's got a couple of houses. He'll give you a good price. And because I actually want to choose Airbnbs in towns that I love, that there's just something special that I know if a stressed out family member was to stay there, he'd be, yeah, he would be able to relax, to find that peace that he needs. I think that's what I was discovering when I was in Europe. Uh, yeah, that it's really the whole land. So forget about like cities. And by the way, I resisted main cities. I went to Paris for a night, and I was in London for 2 nights. But um, I prefer to stay in the outskirts to really get a feel of the town. And also, I just wanted to relax, right? So I preferred the idea of like staying, say, 10 or 20 kilometers outside of Paris, right? Nice, relaxed, beautiful, leafy suburb. And then perhaps like catching a train into, Paris daily or something like that. Like, I personally like that idea because then I'm not this sort of garish sort of, tourist that's staying in the center. It's almost sort of like I'm becoming a local and just relaxing and easing into the culture. I'm not, leaving my hotel and going straight to somewhere. I'm using their infrastructure, right? I'm feeling like a local, right? And in that way, you kind of just forget, your concerns at home, and then you just sort of call that a more relaxed version of yourself overseas, unencumbered by all the stress. I think that family members do themselves a disservice when they just choose to go to Lebanon to be with their family, because a lot of that is just them doing the same thing that they do at home, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but remember, they're there to sort of relax and to sort of have this sort of nice cathartic experience, right? To just kind of be away from that beautiful mess that is their family, right? Because families are stressful. I like what I want. I want to start a trend. All right, I'm going to start a trend. For every family member that goes to Europe for, say, a month, right? So for every 4 weeks, if you're there for 4 weeks, all right, take off 1 week and spend it in Europe. So 3 weeks in Lebanon, 1 week in Europe. A trip to Paris costs as little as like $200, and I think is a 4-hour flight. Just trust me. Just take a leap of faith. Go, and by the way, it doesn't have to be Paris. Let me list the options that you have if you're in Beirut that are within like 4 hours, let's just say. London, Paris, Rome, Oslo, Stockholm, Berlin, Prague. Um, well, there's Turkey, Istanbul. Um, yeah, now I'm just listing countries and that, but like just to give you an idea, right? Athens, for gosh sakes, Beirut to Athens, right? We've got oh gosh, that's with B. I forgot the name. Baalbek, right? And so if you like Baalbek, go to Athens and go to Turkey. If you like, the nightclubs in Beirut, go to London. Trust me. Specifically London. Don't worry about Berlin or Paris or go to London to have that rave party experience. Not even Amsterdam. It's actually uh, um, it's a common misconception. The parties in Amsterdam aren't really huge or great. It's more sort of chilled and relaxed. But if you want to go hard, London or Eastern Europe, Prague, Budapest. you'll have the party of your life in Budapest. Forget about Buddha Bar, forget about White Bar, forget about, was it BO18? Forget about, that's all just a laugh. Don't even worry. Go to Eastern Europe and see how they do it. And by the way, I actually don't mean that it's a laugh. We go hard in Beirut. Like we're better than Sydney. But yeah, there's better museums. The Louvre, my God. The Uffizi Gallery in Italy. I forgot off the top of my head. Florence. I think it's located. Right. It's a couple of $100. Go fly there. Lebanese that are in Beirut at the moment, that are in Lebanon, go fly now. Call a cousin in Australia, get him to transfer you some money or buy you a ticket and just go. Live like a backpacker. It's not expensive. You'd be surprised. Eastern Europe is much cheaper than Lebanon. That's a fun thought. And girls are way easier. And men, way easier. I shouldn't say that. That's mean. The Lebanese society, they're still a little bit patriarchal and they still have that chaperone sort of thing, And I think that that's sort of frustrating for men, I think it's good for them to go overseas where, say, it's more liberal and they're able to have like I'd say more constructive social experience with a woman, let's say. Yeah. Because the options are severely limiting in Lebanon. Yeah. Have I made my case strongly enough? I hope so. I mean, if I haven't, please give me some suggestions. Throw some cities at me that you think would be good to visit in Europe. And by the way, I want to make it Europe just because Europe's close to Lebanon. And because I had a really good experience in Europe earlier this year. But yeah, it applies to all over the world. But let's start with Europe. Give me, stories of your trips to Europe and suggestions for places to go and places to stay. Let's start a conversation. Let's make it happen. Or not. It's your choice, right? Love you. Bye.